Hello everyone and welcome to day 4 of the Propulsion Swimming Podcast, daily episodes during the Paris 2024 Olympic Games. Lots to take you through on today's episode as we are talking a very busy final session on day 3. We'll give our thoughts there. Lots of Brit talk to get into as well, as we had like 6-7 people racing. We've got an Irish medal to talk about. And then we had an incredibly busy morning session as well. So this might be getting uploaded a tiny bit later than we have been over the past few days, but hopefully there's enough time for people to listen to this ahead of tonight's session, and we'll rattle through because there's lots of racing to talk about today.
Yeah, I'm going to keep my intro very short here, and I think we should just crack on because there are a good number of races, like you say, many a final last night, and then some heat finals, which some semi-finals and some finals later on, which has British interest. So I think we should just crack on.
Yeah, we'll do a bit of a recap about where the Brits are in terms of momentum and positivity, I think, at the end of the finals talk, because I think there's a lot to take away from last night. We bigged them up and gave them a strong medal count heading into this. Some of our predictions missed last night, but I'm encouraged because all of our predictions were young swimmers, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I suppose you could class them as unlucky because there's a number of fourths there and all that sort of thing as well. But yes, yeah.
Okay, so day 3 kicked off with the women's 400 metres IM. I said in the preview episode yesterday that if a world record was to fall at this point, it was likely to be Summer in this, and she's like 3 seconds off. She didn't really have anyone to race. She's not ever, really, for a long time, going to have anyone to race in this. The pool's the pool at this point. Everyone's swimming in the same water. I think we just ignore the clock and look at the placings. Summer wins by a distance, comfortable. Katie Grimes, I thought she would be a little bit further ahead of the rest of the field, which came back at her in the second half of the race. And Freya Colbert just misses out on an Olympic bronze to back up her world title earlier this year. It was tough to take as Brits, but I'm thinking positively here. We've had a few days of negativity for the Brits. There's a lot more to come from Freya. It's still the beginnings of her career.
Yeah, I mean, you've talked about everyone there, so let's start with Summer McIntosh. And I'm going to agree with you here, where the time is not really a factor anymore. You know, on the first day we were moaning that the graphics weren't working and, what are the splits? We have no idea.
I'm just not looking.
Actually, I'm not even interested in the splits anymore because the times are completely irrelevant, which is what we'll talk about with the men's 200 free later. It's about just racing the race and winning the race, or, getting a medal, of which Summer did that. She did what she could with this pool, strong fly. She took it out from the beginning and just led the way, and it did what everyone thought she would do and win by a country mile. Katie Grimes actually stayed with Summer for
at the start.
most of
I think
the
she paid
first...
for it, though. I think
she did on the freestyle. She just did the 1500 just then and didn't look too great doing that either. So I don't know if
final.
She was really concentrating on this 4 a.m. And she's got away with silver. She's come away with silver, which is, I think, what most people probably would have predicted there. And then we predicted Freya to get the bronze, which I still think that was a really good opportunity for Freya. And actually, I was saying to you when we were watching it that she had to push the backstroke, which she did. She held on the breaststroke and she turned into the freestyle ahead of Emma Wyatt. And you think, you got a great chance here with the strength of Freya's freestyle. Just couldn't quite hold on, and Wyatt snuck in to get the bronze, which is really unfortunate. But it's another 4th for GB, which is a real kick in the face, isn't it? So, yeah.
It is a little bit, and I'm putting a positive spin on this. Freya is still young. Like, she is still incredibly young in this sport. I believe she's 20 years old at this point.
She's young, very early 20s.
Yeah. A lot of people will be coming away saying, the British medal haul is lower than where it should be. But
is it, though?
I'm not sure it is at this point, especially now we've got 1 medal on the board for the men's 2 free, and that field as well, like you would have loved to, and we get to it. We would have loved 2 on the board.
Yeah.
Freya people were telling us we were ludicrous putting her in the medal conversation, and she was fully in the medal conversation in this race, and I think she justified our hype beforehand. Just Emma Wyatt got on top of it. I don't think we could have asked too much more. I think that was a really, really solid swim.
Yeah, I mean, Emma Wyatt is a strong breaststroker, and then you could see that she was coming through the field on that leg. And I just thought if you could turn ahead of her on the freestyle leg with Freya's strength in that department, then she might be able to hold her off. But it just wasn't to be, unfortunately, for her. But I always thought she had a great chance of winning a bronze medal in this race. I don't know why people kind of dismissed that completely, because she was, like you say, she was in the race from the get-go.
The whole way.
Yeah, from the get-go. So, and then you said about whether GB are not doing so well.
Underperforming. A lot of people are saying it's their worst performance ever.
If you go back to Tokyo, yes, okay, Adam won his gold, and then we had Tom and Duncan win their medals in the 200 free. So, yeah, they won 3 medals. I suppose Adam was unlucky with his gold. Matt was unlucky with getting a silver in a 200, and Duncan was unlucky not to get a medal in the 200. Freya's unlucky, Max is unlucky. There's, I think we're doing okay, to be fair. I think we're doing all right.
Yeah, I think the sport is...
Sport.
It's judged on medals at the end of the day, but when you look at the broader picture, these are young. With all the swimmers tonight that we're talking about are young swimmers who are on the way up. I wouldn't say any of them are going backwards in the sport.
And we're only missing medals by tenths here. It's not like we're missing it by a good second, 2 or 3. It's on the touch, literally on the touch. So I think we're doing very well.
Freya was a bit more than touch, but yes.
Well, yes, you know what I'm saying. Yeah.
Katie Shanahan in this as well for the Brits finished down in 7th, 440.17. She did look good up until after the backstroke leg, so hopefully that's a good sign for her 2 back later on in the week.
Yeah, I think so. I think I still stand by her favoured event is the 200 backstroke, which I think she should be concentrating on the most. And based on that backstroke leg on that IM, I think, you're right. I think she should make a final, but we'll get to that later on down the week.
But Summer deserved winner in this one, never really in doubt, and she's going to dominate this event for a very, very long time. Men's 200 meters freestyle final. This was never supposed to be this close.
No, it wasn't. It's funny how I say that Matt was unlucky to win a silver, but going into the Olympics, I thought, well, Matt's doing really well if he wins a silver because Popovici is so far ahead. But would you say Popovici underperforms? Because
I would say this is the first, not the first sign. This will make people sit up and realise the pressure of an Olympic Games.
Yeah, I think so as well. Because he's really good in outdoor pools. That's where he hits his times.
And at Europeans.
Yes,
ironically.
But of course, Olympic final is the biggest pressure cooker there is in the sport.
I don't think he expected anyone to be with him on that last turn, and everyone was.
Yeah,
literally bang with him, and no one took it out fast enough.
No, I think
Matt was the only one.
Was it Martins? Martins was 50.5. Everyone else was, I think Matt was 50.9, but everyone else was low 51, which in the grand scheme, going back to Tokyo, everyone is 50.
We literally just said we'd ignore the times, but if if we ignore the times, Popovici should have been ahead at that 100 mark by some distance.
A little bit, I suppose. Yeah.
Based on his earlier swims this year.
He pushes the second 100 more than the first 100, which a lot of them do, like Duncan and Matt. But I think he should have been, or in his mind, with his time going in, he probably would have thought he would have been a body length or half a body length ahead of the rest of the field. But, you had Hobson there, Martins there. Everyone was basically in a line. It was a very exciting race.
It was.
Ignore the time
everyone
like we were saying,
split
but my
the same
word.
on the last 50 as well.
Yeah, really, really exciting. And it did come down to the finish, literally 200 separating Popovici and Matt, and then Duncan missed his bronze by less than a tenth. And so unfortunate.
It's nuts. It's honestly, as a Brit, I've come away happy from that. Right? I'm not happy because Duncan
missed a medal. Yeah.
But going in, you're saying second and fourth. To get that close to beating Popovici as well, maybe it does feel like a bit missed opportunity for Matt. He's within 200ths of becoming an Olympic champion. Whole podium and fourth separated by 0.15. I think for me that so far this has been the race of the Olympic Games.
Yeah, again, time's completely irrelevant because these guys should probably be going a second quicker, roughly speaking. But in terms of race and drama, it's up there, isn't it? Surely.
Yeah, absolutely. Bright future for Matt in the 2-3. I would never. We probably didn't preview him enough going in from the semi-finals to this, just because he was on the outside lane. He hadn't quite shown what he's capable of so far at these games, but future Olympics, future Worlds, I don't think you can ever doubt him. To show up on the big stage. Same with Duncan. You can never doubt him to show up and battle for I think they never leave any. There's never any questions unanswered by the end of the race with both of them.
Yeah, I think the only reason why, not really doubts, that's the too strong a word, but his semi-final swim, Matt was very much playing with fire because he was in the first semi-final and the second semi was a lot more well, it gives you more advantage, obviously, doesn't it? And yeah, I don't know if Matt just got it slightly wrong tactically in the semi-final, but he certainly put it right in the final. As an outside lane, you've got to go out a little bit stronger than the rest of the field so you can get a look down the pool. But yeah, overall, unfortunate for us Brits.
Great race, though.
Very good race.
Men's 100 metres backstroke final. We said going into this, Chekon was our pick. I bounced off yesterday, and I'll tell you what, today I'm just not going to put any predictions out there. I'm just going to follow your lead because you called this podium perfectly, Dan.
I tell you what, actually, without bragging here, I got most podiums in this session pretty much bang on. Maybe like sort of
not the
positions around the wrong way, but yeah, I didn't do too badly. Chekon with 52 flat. This last 25, and he did this in his world record swim as well.
Yeah.
It is just
It's
awesome.
the reach. The reach is bonkers. The man is lanky.
Yeah, and it definitely helps. I mean, you look at Popovici, and it's the same sort of build, really, roughly speaking, kind of like your skinny sort of lanky sort of thing, and he's quite flexible,
It's a lot
I imagine,
taller
as
than
well.
Popovici, might.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah, and that obviously helps as well. So yeah, that was a very good swim. Zoo probably surprised me a little bit. I thought he would take it out a little bit stronger and do what he did in the semi-final, but again, that's just the pressure of finals, isn't it?
And Murphy gets his 7th Olympic medal.
I know. And actually, I don't know if you saw this on BBC Sport, but his girlfriend, I assume wife, in the crowd announced to him on a poster that he's now having a baby girl. So that was a bit of a good announcement, I think.
Oh, I didn't see that. That would be really, really nice.
Yeah, it's on BBC Sport if you want to look at it. Yeah.
That's so cool. 3 names that we kind of expected on this podium. Really.
Yeah, I mean, there were other names like Christou and people like that who are, again, extremely close to getting on the podium. I do think that it's going to come down to the last 10 metres because I don't know what's happening at that end of the pool, but it looks as though swimmers are kind of like stopping. I don't know if there's some sort of current or the turbulence, the wave coming back at them is tough. So that's why they're all sort of bunched up together, it seems, apart from Chekon. But yeah, he's just lanky and slips through the water, it seems. But yeah, they're all very close. And then obviously you had Ollie in the outside lane as well, going not too far off his British record. So I think that was actually a really solid swim from him.
Yeah, his first major final individually, I think this is. Because he didn't final at Worlds, he just missed it.
Yeah, he missed it, didn't he? So that's correct. Yeah,
great building experience. Like we've said so many times on this podcast, Ollie is still extremely young in the senior scene of this sport. There's much more to come, which is why an 8th place finish doesn't feel disappointing. It feels like a stepping stone to future meets, and I think British selectors will be happy with that swim.
I think so as well, and I actually think it might make them really consider Ollie for the mixed medley now. I think
I've got no clue what they're going to do at this
Adam.
point.
Just because that swim is quite solid.
Adam's well enough, so we haven't actually talked about this yet.
Yes.
He's had COVID for that final, essentially, and he's given it to Nick Fink as well.
Yeah.
On the podium, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if Adam gets back in time for the mixed medley. You might just have him for the men's medley right at the end on the last day. Who really knows?
Well, it depends how bad. Obviously, people deal with COVID differently. They get more ill, or some people don't even get affected by it at all. So it depends how bad he is. But that's a massive shame, really, because maybe that could have been a difference between him and gold. Who knows? So depends how his body's dealing with it. But yeah, that's what I'm thinking with that mixed medley in a couple of days' time. I think we go for it at the start. Ollie and Adam.
I think so. I think you do based off the women not making the semi-final in the 100 backstroke.
In their
backstroke
backstroke,
side.
yeah, I think that's another.
Did.
Yeah, and that's another sort of cog of the thinking there as well. Yeah.
Women's 100 metres breaststroke then, Tatiana Smith, formerly Shoemaker. I'll say that for this time and this time only and we'll call her Smith from now on. She backs up her heat swims, semi-final swims. Doesn't swim the same time that she was hitting. She was hitting 65 flats, a little bit slower in this one. It was really, really close. A few girls really went for it on that first 50. They really attacked it, especially Tang, who had left a lot to be desired off some of her heat swims. Yeah. I'll be honest with you. Pilato, outside burner, I thought she was nearly going to hold on.
Yeah.
But no, Tatiana Smith comes through in the last 25 metres and does look strong. Does look strong in this one. Deserved win.
Yeah, and it'll bode well for a 200 later on as well, I believe. Again, I didn't do too bad on the podium here. I thought McSharry might get a silver, and actually a bronze is not as good, but it's still a very good result for Swim Ireland. And I believe, and I might stand to be corrected here, but this is the first Irish medal in the pool since '96. Yeah. So that's an amazing result. And like you keep saying, like yesterday, the first medal for Ireland before Dan Whiffen
I know she's beating Dan Whiffen at these Olympics, which is honestly, that is a confidence builder for Dan Whiffen going in. And
it is.
If he hits in both the distance events, they might finish above the Brits in the medal table. I'll just put that out there now.
Let's not talk about that too loudly. And then Angharad, I suppose we put Angharad in the same category as Freya, saying maybe people were thinking, are we a bit mad thinking that she could potentially win a medal, when actually she wasn't too far away from winning that bronze. And it was a very close race. She did finish 6th. There was a joint 4th. All of those girls could have easily won any medal in that race.
Well, exactly how we predicted it.
Yeah, just as exciting as the men's 200 free almost, because they were all so clumped together.
She was only 0.26 off the bronze, which is incredibly tight. And yeah, you're, again, a bit like Freya, you'll be disappointed that you haven't quite got onto that podium, but she's a bit like Ollie. She's really only made the jumps this year, where you think she was starting this season at a 107. Yeah. And she's come down to a 105. The work that they've done at Stirling is fantastic. We've spoken to her on this podcast. And she got it right in that final. She did attack the first 50 a little bit more. She definitely wasn't left behind in that first 50. And the closing speed was there. It just came down to the finish. And it's one of those things where it goes your way, it doesn't go your way. She hit a 65 again. You can be disappointed, but I don't think you can. I think you take that as a massive encouraging sign for her future in the sport. Yeah,
and I think that she did progress through the rounds as well. So 66 in the heats, and then very high 105, and then just smidge under that semi-final time. So in theory, she did the right thing. Everything was correct. The processes looked correct. She made the adjustments on that first 50 going out speed, and then still had the back end speed as well. Just on the day, maybe on another day, she could have easily won silver. It just happens to be on the day that she finished 6th. So that's the way it goes. That's sport.
Women's 200 metres freestyle final. This was a absolute belter, which was won by one single turn, in my opinion. The final turn from Mollie O'Callaghan, which took her to a 153.27, and she smoked Ariarne Titmus off that turn, and there was no looking back. It was nuts. I know she's got this back end speed, which is phenomenal, and Titmus matched her back end speed at Aussie Trials, which is why I thought she would do it again. But it was the turn and the momentum off that turn. There was just never any chance anyone was catching her.
Yeah, I actually recorded a video last night, which is on the main channel here at Propulsion Swimming, and I honestly think that turn is right up there with one of the best turns I've ever seen. Yeah, like I said, I've watched every Phelps race, every Loxley race, every Ryan Murphy race, everyone who's amazing at underwater, and that is right up there. Not because she took the distance out on just the underwater phase, but the speed she carried on afterwards to then actually beat Titmus by over half a second is a monstrous turn and just incredible. Like that final split that she did was actually quicker than the split Titmus did in that world record swim at Aussie Trials.
Phenomenal.
That's how good that turn was. And yeah, that's pretty much what it came down to. The other splits were nigh on the same between them. Yeah. And it came down to that final turn. Yeah.
I think this is the first ever Aussie 1-2 in this event.
Ooh.
I believe, looking at, I think SwimSwam put out a stat about it. I think it's the first ever Aussie 1-2, and it was never really in doubt. He got closer to Titmus than I thought she would. A 154.55. Bodes well for her 100 later on this week. She'll be going up against Mollie O'Callaghan in that one.
Yep.
No, never in doubt with these two. And I'll be honest, as soon as she popped up off that turn, it was done.
Yeah, honestly.
It was over.
I need to go and watch it again. Obviously, it's not on YouTube anywhere just yet, but I'd love to go and see that turn again, because that's one of those things that you got to show these age group swimmers of how effective a real good turn is, and not just the turn itself. Like I was saying, it's the whole 50 meters that has an effect because of it. And there's an Olympic record as well. We probably should have said that. That was an Olympic record swim.
Good swim.
So an amazing swim, a really good.
You actually said it really well in the video that is on the main channel of. The difference is Mollie O'Callaghan is the 100 coming up to the 2, and Titmus is the 4 coming down to the 2. The difference is the underwater skills. You don't need it as much for the 4 because you just want to get into your stroke and just go. Whereas from the 100, you've got one wall and you make the most of that wall. And she's done it in the 2. I mean, she does that again in the 1. Wow.
I mean, we'll very briefly talk about that because, of course, we had the heats this morning of that race.
And we've got the semi-finals to preview later.
Yeah.
So that is the finals from night 3 reviewed. Positivity around the Brits. I know the medal count isn't climbing, but these were very encouraging swims for some very young swimmers. It's not a case of they're at the end of their careers and they've just missed a medal. They are fully building through the sport. So the negativity, the comments that we're seeing on some of our posts, on some of our videos, I think we disagree. We firmly disagree with where the Brits are at. Medals, yes, they're what people are going to be judged on.
Yep.
But the swimming doesn't stop at these Olympic Games. It keeps going afterwards, if that makes sense.
I mean, we're missing medals by tenths and hundreds of seconds. So if that just was on the other side, then our medal count would be absolutely phenomenal, and we'd be ranting and raving about it.
Absolutely.
But we're just on the wrong side of it at the moment, and that's why it looks like we're not performing as well as we are. But I actually think we're doing very well.
I think there's a good chance we get a gold tonight.
Yes.
Okay, Dan, let's preview Day 4 finals then. We've got 3 finals tonight, and then we've got a bunch of semi-finals. So we will start with the finals on Day 4, of which we kick things off with the women's 100 meters backstroke, which is starting to look... I didn't think I'd say this going in. It might look like a 3-way tussle because Catherine Burkhoff has looked really, really strong through the rounds. Maybe Regan Smith and Kaylee McEwen have held a little back, and I think they have. Again, I don't think this is a world record pool. I think we'll stop the pool talk from this point on. It's about who wins, and it is literally going to be, in my opinion, Dan, who gets the stroke count right and who finishes on a full stroke.
Do you know what, actually? Because Reagan's turn is looking as good as it is, I am leaning more. I was very much a coin flip, as I did in the prediction video. I'm leaning towards Reagan winning this, just solely because the turn and the speed she's getting off that wall now. I guess kind of similar to what Mollie just did in the 200 free. But and that's why I'm leaning towards her right now. Again, let's ignore the times. I don't think a world record's happening. Like we were going on about going a sub 57 to get the gold here. I don't think that happens. Maybe like a sub 58 might actually be good enough here. I'm leaning towards Reagan. I'm going that way. Yeah, I'm now sort of 55-45 in Reagan's favour.
I'm a little bit like you. I was fully Kaylee, and I've come back to coin flip.
Have you? Okay.
Yeah. If I'm perfectly honest, I think Kaylee's not shown anything right now that blows the doors off, whereas Reagan has had that turn. I do agree that turn looks nuts.
Yeah, it looks good.
Really, really good. And maybe the underwater skills in a pool which is wavy is what wins you races in this Olympics.
I suppose it probably does. I mean, look at Gretchen Walsh, and she takes chunks out of that.
She lost
people on her turns, but the only reason she lost was because she was tied up at the end. I don't think Reagan's going to tie up. She's not going to tie up. I know Kaylee's going to come through at the end like she just did in the semi-final last night.
Yeah.
But then Reagan's got a strong back end as well. So I'm getting more. I'm talking myself more and more confident that Regan Smith is going to win this one, but. Never write off Kaylee McEwen.
You were not Stradamus yesterday predicting your podium, so I'm going to let you lead, and I'm just going to nod because I had a bad day yesterday.
Well, based on what I'm saying here, I think Regan Smith gets the gold, Kaylee gets the silver, and then you've got Burkhoff, who may even steal one of those 2 medals, but I'm going to go with her to win the bronze.
Okay, I agree.
Okay, great.
Let's stick with that. Men's 800 meters freestyle. That is the next final on night 4, of which Ireland have a great chance of a gold medal. Dan Whiffen looked phenomenal in the heat swim. He let, Winnington swim one of the weirdest 800 meters freestyles that I've ever seen. He turned at the 200 point in a 150, which is rapid.
Yeah, that's quick.
Whiffen let him do it. He watched him, and then from 400 onwards, Whiffen does what Whiffen does and just kicks on. He looks super, super strong. He's going to have competition, and I think there are faster finishers in this field than him, in your Bobby Fink, and also the Tunisian swimmer, who I'm going to struggle to pronounce his name. I believe it's Jouadi. He was really strong finishing and actually out-touched Bobby Fink and Paltrinieri in that swim. I think he might need to kick on from them in the last 100, or before the last 100, kick on at the 400-meter mark to be secure of that gold because of how fast those two were finishing in the heats. But I've been confident of Dan Whiffen for most of the year. I know in our preview I picked Bobby Fink. I like Dan Whiffen. I like how he swam. It looked really good.
Yeah. I don't know if it helped that Winnington was in his heat and Winnington did what he did. And I like the calmness that Whiffen had. Because you said that he came through strongly, but I actually think he just held pace. It was Winnington that actually fluctuated.
Okay.
And Whiffen just carried on doing what he was doing, what he does probably day in and day out when he's training up in Loughborough. And he then cements himself as the fastest going in, puts himself in a perfect lane, obviously, around all of these swimmers that he's going to have to contend with. And I'm going to stick to my guns. I think he wins this. I think he wins this 800 free. Not by a landslide, because some of the names, Palptionary, Aubrey's in that final, so the French crowd's going to go absolutely insane.
I know, he had
Bobby
a really
Fink, of
good
course.
heat swim to make it. Sam Short misses, which is a bit of a shock, and I'm going to take a guess and say the illness that he was battling at Aussie trials has really disrupted his prep into this meet. Yeah,
that is a shock, but actually a bigger shock for me is Wellbrook missing. That is a big name to be missing out. Romanchuk is also out. Tuncelli, who we bigged up a little bit with his World Junior record, he's also out. So actually, it kind of helps Whiffin's case to get a medal here at least. I think he's after more than just a medal. This is a golden opportunity. No pun intended.
Okay. I thought you were going to say world record then, and I was going to really knock some sense into you. He got incredibly close to the Olympic record in the heats. He was only 0.3 off.
I know. That's on the cards for sure.
Yeah.
He's one to watch out for. He looks promising. He really does look promising.
Podium prediction?
Whiffen gold.
Yep.
I will then go for a Bobby Fink silver with a Palptionary bronze, I think.
Okay, I'll go Whiffen Fink Jouadi.
Jouadi was good, to be fair.
The finish was...
Yeah, the finish was good.
Although the other two might have been holding back a little bit in the heats of an 800, but the finishing speed was really, really good if he can stick with Bobby Fink and Dan Whiffen. Next up then, it's the last event of the session, but it's a final, so we'll preview it before we get through the semi-finals. The men's 4x2 freestyle relay. I'm sorry if you're not a Brit listening to this, but this is going to be very, very Brit heavy. The guys look good this morning, and the only swim we really need to take notice of is Jimmy Guy's PB leading off. I said we're going to stop the pool talk, but a PB in this pool when he goes a 1:45.04, first PB in 9 years, Jimmy's flying.
Yeah, he's doing really well. And in fact, like, we were watching it live and you think, 1:45, so unfortunate not to go a 1:44. And you suddenly realise, that's the fastest he's ever been. So, he is on fire. To the point where, like, you were posing the question, do you get Jimmy to lead now?
I don't think they do. I think they will still go with Matt. And then they'll go Jimmy after.
Yeah.
And then Dino Duncan. I think Paul Boy put out a tweet about it. Like, it's likely to be they've practiced that relay order. They've practiced those takeovers for months. They know that those are your four. You can kind of ignore.
If you've got Matt doing what he can do, obviously winning his silver, if he can go a 1:44 from a flat start, Jimmy from a relay takeover now looks very good to go a 1:44. That means we should be in the lead. We've got a bit of clear water. Then you've got Dino jumping in the pool. I mean,
you can ignore Dino's split earlier as well. He dived in and then switched off.
Completely.
And he still went at 1:46.7.
Yeah. And then we've got Duncan anchoring. I mean, the team is as solid as it can be. The world record, let's not talk about the world record. This is just about winning the gold. We need to get that gold under our belt. And even Jack McMillan swam really well.
But that was the 6th fastest British swim relay split of a 4x2.
Yeah. And
phenomenal.
Unfortunately, he doesn't make a final swim.
Well, that was his Olympic Games, this swim. And we were speaking about it just like, man, Jack McMillan's job in the world of swimming, that is a very nice place to be. Safe takeover, 1:45.6. It's a very good swim. I'll put it out there. He was probably trying to hit some ridiculous time just to see if he could maybe cause some selection headaches.
Sway the choice,
and then Kieran Bird got his heat swim, which I think me and you are both quite pleased with. I know Kieran wanted to break the 1:47 barrier at trials to secure his place. I think that's what it would have taken to convince selectors to give him that swim. And Duncan deserved the rest after last night's swim. Matt, no chance you're getting him to double up in a heat swim after last night as well. They were always going to put Kieran in my eyes.
I know there were some calls to put Max in as well, and honestly,
you probably could have put him in for Tom.
Yeah, probably, but Tom hasn't raced as much as the others, so I'd rather him get a bit of momentum going, and Jimmy's clearly got momentum without even doing a swim beforehand. So this team looks really good, but is there going to be any challenges to
I still wouldn't count out the Americans just yet, because they will bring in from their heat swim Luke Hobson, who obviously won bronze last night and did look really good winning that bronze. And then there's Carson Foster, who at Doha swam a 1:43. So it's not a foregone conclusion, which is why we are talking win the gold, not the world record.
Yeah, very much so. And that will obviously be at the forefront of these guys' minds to defend their title and being the same four swimmers as well, which has never happened before.
Never happened.
It's a history-making race for Team GB, as long as they all perform, which I think they probably will. I'm quite confident.
Okay. It's going to be a weird final because there's going to be nine teams in this final because there was a tie for 8th place, and anything when it's like 800 distance, they don't do a swim off. So there's going to be a team in lane 0 pool talk, in this pool, which that's not a nice place to be.
Has there ever been a swim off in a relay before, especially the 4x2?
No, but they don't do it in the 4x2. They literally don't do it. It's not in the rules. You swim 9 in the final, when was the last time there was 9 in a final? I'd love for someone to comment below if you know. I don't have the time.
Going back in time now if that's ever been a thing. But Israel and Japan. Like, imagine if you actually did have to do a swim off. So you've just done a 4x2 at the end of the session, and somehow you got to go back and do it again moments later. Oh man, that would be tough.
We had a really interesting question posed to us. Obviously, it's completely hypothetical because it didn't need to happen. But like, can you swap swimmers in, or do you have to literally do your heat swimmers?
Yeah.
Which would have been really interesting. We don't have to worry about that. Okay, the semi-finals that are going to happen on day 4, there's lots of them. You've got the men's 100 meters freestyle. You've got Leon Marchand doing the men's 2 fly and the 2 breaststroke in the same session. And you've got the women's 100 meters freestyle. It's a jam-packed session today, which is weird given that they've spread out the 9-day program. This feels like the one they forgot to spread,
It seems
if I'm perfectly honest.
Yeah.
Let's kick things off with the men's 100 freestyle. No one was really messing around in this morning heats.
Nope.
While there wasn't some ridiculous time, Jack Alexi leads the way in a 47.57. Came back strong. Usually he goes out harder.
Yeah.
Maybe Grosset going out a little bit harder made it look like he didn't quite kick on like he usually does. 48.41 makes it, of which Matt Richards and Pang Zhang Li went 48.40. So in a way, they were pushing their luck.
Yeah, they were.
But they're through.
Yeah, and
that's what matters.
As well. Yeah,
between
13.
3 swimmers, it was.
Blimey. Let's talk about Jack Alexi. I think a 47.5 as a heat swim. Now, he did a 47.0 at US Trials as well, and then couldn't back up that same speed again in the semi or the final, did he?
Yeah.
So, for his sake, I hope he does progress through the rounds for him to win a medal that he probably deserves, actually. He's looking really quite strong for me. Grosset probably helps him because Grosset does go out hard and he holds on. And then Popovici and Nemeth also went sub 48 to go 47.9s. Solid swims, I think. Again, no real stand-ups like you were saying. I suppose the biggest talking point is Pang Zhang Li, who, in the start of the medley relay, at the freestyle relay at the start of the week, went 46.9, and now suddenly he's gone 48 mid, and you think, ooh.
I thought he was, like, before these heats were swam, I was like, you know what, he might be solid favourite for gold given that relay lead off.
Yep.
I hope it was just a miscalculation and the wheels haven't come off, because the wheels did come off in his 200 freestyle campaign.
Yeah, that was odd to go 149, that's a nothing swim for him. So I don't
never know. Like, COVID is starting to make its way around. We had Lanny Pallister pull out of the 1500 with it.
That was a shame.
You really hope it's not impacting some swimmers. We're purely speculating here. I hope it was literally a miscalculation on his part.
And Matt's, I suppose, because at the same time.
Yeah, I fully think Matt and Pang Zhang Li are capable of much faster in the semi-finals. They're just in outside lanes now, which is, it's 100 free. It doesn't matter so much what lane you're in. You just want to head down and go. I
mean, you look at the names of the top 16.
Some big names are missing this final.
Yeah, the names in the top 16, just to go into the semi-final. How you whittle that down to 8, you can't. You've just got to absolutely bomb it in the semi-final. There's no hanging around now. Like, I expect sub 48s from the top 8 now.
Yeah, Kyle Chalmers. I have this feeling. Something's looked good with his swims so far this week. I'm not going to predict who's making this final, but we'll talk final preview tomorrow.
Yes, and definitely. Do you know what, Kyle Chalmers? I think the reason why you're thinking Kyle Chalmers and roughly sort of mine is because he's got the back end speed. He usually turns last.
Yeah, and he's been turning right up there.
And he's been turning near enough at the front, and he still has the back end speed. And you think, oh, it's scary. That's scary opposition for the rest of the field. And Kyle's looking good, but we'll see what he does in the semi-finals later.
Men's 200 meters butterfly semi-finals that are coming tonight. Christoph Milek, I've heard, I had literally read a tweet, he got back in the water in April after a mental health break to go a 1:53.9, fastest into the semi-finals is solid. Big names miss on this one, big names. I don't think it was overly fast to make the semi-finals in this. They weren't hanging around, but Honda looked dreadful and missed by a mile. Clarebert misses, and he's a Commonwealth champion in this event. And Luca Orlando misses from America. Hellman's down in 11th. So maybe it was swifter than I'm given credit for.
Yeah, but Honda shouldn't be missing a semi-final. He was the fastest going into this event into Paris. And Orlando also was very good going. He did really well at US trials. Clarebert maybe less so because his 400 is better suited race, I would say. So that's not too much of a surprise. But Honda, like, he was on the podium for me, and he's not even in a semi-final. That is a massive shock in my book.
Something looks wrong.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, the pacing was way off. But someone's pacing who was really good was Milak.
Yeah.
Really good. Yeah. Like, he went out 53 and then held 30-30 pretty much to come back in a 1:53.9.
He didn't look as bad as his usual slow swimming looks.
No. And I'm kind of wondering, because I thought going in that maybe a high 52 wins it. So if he's going a high 53
I think this might be fast.
Yeah. Again, I'm not really going to be watching the time. It's all about getting your hand on the wall, qualifying through the rounds, and then getting a touch. And I still think it's going to be a bit of a it was a 3-horse race. Honda's out, so now it's really Milak and Marchand for me. And Marchand looks all right.
I'm not going to put a prediction next to this until we see the semi-finals. But Marchand safely through. Professional job, 1:55.2. He was in the slower of the heats.
Sixth through, yeah.
Yeah, he really... I think Rossetti qualified fastest from his heat in the outside lane, so he had no one really to race at that point. He's going to have to do another professional job tonight because he's got the 200 breaststroke as well, which might not be such a hard ask to make the final. I think this one, given how closely bunched it was this morning, might be where he has to work a little bit harder.
Yeah, and in a weird way, kind of lucky that the 200 fly is first, and then the 200 breaststroke is later. We'll get to the 200 breaststroke obviously later on, but the times weren't spectacular in that either. But before
some swimmers were messing around.
Yeah,
we'll get to that. Before that is the women's 100 meters freestyle semi-finals. In the heats this morning, Sarah Sjostrom was the only swimmer beneath 53. She looked good doing it. It's weird to think that going into this meet, no one thought she was actually going to enter this. The Swedish Federation said, well, you're at the Olympics, why not enter it? So they entered her, and she said, okay, I'll do it. And she's the fastest seed going into the semi-finals. Yeah. This is one which is going to be close to make the final. From a British point of view, Anna Hopkin tied 10th going through. Her 50 speed looks so good. I'm really encouraged for that later on in the week. She goes a 53.67. What do you think makes the final in this, Dan? Because they're closely bunched at the top with Jorge Steenbergen look good again. The 2 Aussies did enough. 2 Americans did enough. It's going to be hard to make this final.
And I'm trying to go back on memory from the women's 4x1 free, and they were all roughly around that 52.2-3 area, and mid. So I'm kind of thinking a sub 53.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you.
Sub 53 is good, which means Anna's going to have to go some. Like, her PB is a sub 53, so she's going to have to be there or thereabouts on PB to make this final. But there are some big names. I think Jorge looks really solid at the moment. Steenbergen, again, came back well, and really is a dark horse here. Sjostrom obviously looks great. Mollie O'Callaghan with the back end speed. There's a few names here. It's going to be tough to make this final for Anna, but we'll be cheering her on, absolutely. But the first 50 is good. I think that bodes well for the 50 later on. I agree with you there.
First 50 speed looks phenomenal.
Looks good.
It's a really good program of races tonight. All of them are really quite hard to call, especially these semi-finals. There's no hanging around to make the finals.
No, not now. No.
Men's 200 meters breaststroke. This is Leon Marchand's second of his double tonight. He swam a 2:09.55 and switched off for the final 50. Like, he didn't push it at all. He could have qualified much faster. He was leading by quite some way at the 150 turn. Someone who wasn't leading by quite a long way at the 150 turn was Zach Stubblety-Cook. I mean, I'm not Australian, but we've had Zach on this podcast before, so we kind of have this vested interest in old guests. And Man, I was a bit nervous for him.
Do you know what? I have confidence in certain swimmers to come through at the end. So Mollie O'Callaghan being one, Chalmers being another, and usually Zach Stopsy-Cook. Now,
left himself a lot to do.
On this occasion, he did come through and he came out through really well. But I've put on my note here, like, risky or intentional? No, clearly I'm going to go with intentional. But if I'm a British fan and he was British, I'd be like, oh my God, what's he doing? What's he doing?
He was sixth at the turn in his semi-final.
Like, if we have any Australian listeners listening in, can you please comment saying, like, your thoughts through that? Because that must have been an emotional roller coaster through that race. But he looked like he knew what he was doing and pretty much going in fastest. I think he's second fastest going in.
He is second fastest. Yeah. But the split from first to 16th was 1.5 seconds. So this field is so closely bunched heading into the semi-finals. There are big names within this. I think Watanabe from Japan looked really good with his closing speed.
Both Japanese swimmers, actually.
Yeah, they did look really, really strong. A lot of these can push on a lot further than the heat swims. Like a 2:09 as the fastest time isn't spectacular.
No, I think all the top swimmers made it. The ones who were supposed to qualify have got through to the semi-finals, and I expect it will be the same sort of crew that make the final. Your Matt Fallons, your Marchand, your Zach Stopsy-Cook. The one who I don't think is going to make this final because he is not looking good is Chin Hyang.
Oh yeah, that is a bit of a talking point.
He's off pace, isn't he?
We're not going to bring up these questions, but questions will be raised of his 2023 and what he's done at this Olympics. Either that injury that we've talked about heading in has really hindered his progress.
Yeah.
Or 2023 was this purple patch and massive anomaly of the rest of his career, because he's been nowhere and he's tried to take out these races hard because realistically he's got a PB of a 57.
Yeah.
So turning at a minute is PB plus 3. But he's just, in both the 100 and this, there is no closing speed. There's nothing.
At this point in time, you're just thinking, is he a flash in a pan for like a single year, 18 months?
It's a big statement to say
it is.
But
I
he's
mean,
just
maybe
not
he
showed
proves
up
us. Maybe he proves us wrong later on. But to qualify 15th and not look good,
and he was going backwards. Yeah,
he was going backwards. Yeah, I know. I don't know the level of damage to his knee that he had for this injury, but having a bad knee for a breaststroker it's not great. Breaststroke is all legs, so if you don't have one knee, you're really suffering there. So I don't know the extent of the injury, but it's not looking good for him at the moment, and people are going to be asking a lot of questions, I think, and we're not going to pose those questions. I don't think.
Yeah, he was odds-on favourite for this.
He's world record holder, mate.
Yeah. I mean, both me and you going in were just like, well, I can't really look past him now. I don't think he makes the final.
No, again, it's another name to get rid of if you like. If you're on Leon Marchand on the pursuit of winning gold in both these races, you've got no Honda suddenly, and then potentially no Chin. If we're going off our prediction, that's two big names to get out of that podium.
The path is getting easier.
Yeah, so we will find out though, of course.
Okay, so that just about rounds up our daily podcast for day 4. We rattled through quite a lot of races there, quite a lot of discussions to be had. I'm feeling a lot more positive of where the British performances are at after the last, well, especially after the first 2 days where we were a bit down in the doldrums. I think yesterday was an encouraging sign. I've picked up my momentum. I didn't actually get much sleep last night, but we're in a good place. I'm looking forward to tonight's finals. There's some belters. And fingers crossed for Dan Whiffen.
Yeah, well, I was about to say, fingers crossed for Dan Whiffen and fingers crossed for our 4x2 boys as well. Hopefully we get an Irish gold and a British gold, and that will really send us into a very good mood tonight, which will then lead in tomorrow's episode as well.
So make sure you're subscribed on the Propulsion Swimming Podcast YouTube channel, on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, so you get this straight in your feed as soon as it comes up ahead of the night's racing, and we will see you guys in 24 hours.
Yeah, thank you for listening, everyone, and we'll catch you tomorrow.
You've been listening to the Propulsion Swimming Podcast with Scott and Dan. We want to thank you for joining us and invite you to subscribe to the show, as well as checking out the Propulsion Swimming YouTube channel for weekly tutorials and videos to get your swimming fix. We will be back next week. Until then, we'll catch you on the next one.